Aloha, talofa, mai kako. Thank you for joining me today. I want to share with you a new way of thinking about Ho'oponopono, not just as a prayer, not just as a process, not just a chant, an ole, but a living technology of the soul, a recalibration tool, because it is truly designed to realign your life with the truest, highest path, your soul's purpose, your soul's true intentions, which is very different from the person that we see when we look in the mirror. Let me explain how this process works in a way that's simple, emotional, and more realistic. Okay, when you recite the very first command of the authentic Ho'oponopono, Father, Mother, Son as one, you are activating something deep within you, and all three of the selves in which you carry within you, actually three selves, and the fourth aspect, which is your newly developing I. So think of this when you start speaking, especially this first line, that you are entering in the location of your GPS, the new location that you would like to go. So the father aspect is your thinking mind, and it decides to set a new destination, because that's where all the ancient patterns that have been with you forever. You have old patterns from lifetimes, and then you have patterns from this lifetime. So this is attached to your logic and how you move about in this world. The mother, the feeling nature, she's the trust, the fuel that provides your ability to take off from where you're at. Okay, so if she doesn't feel safe, she's not going, because the mother aspect is, it's the undeveloped part of us that is going to be shifting into more of your entire beingness, because it is considered the low self now. But many masters said that we were going to become more balanced in that. And so eventually we will not be calling it low self, because you'll be fully emotionally balanced. But what's happening to us right now is this mother aspect. It only goes where it feels comfortable. So for me, before, when I had a severe illness, I had medication that was not required, but in my mind it was required, because I felt the safety in that. And I was afraid to try anything different, and not only try anything different, but I was programmed to thinking that that was my only choice. So the mother aspect in us, when we speak of the moon, everything flows naturally. So you may be flowing naturally towards what feels safe to you. And this is why we don't change a lot of our stubborn behaviors at times. Why I couldn't get the oomph on my own before Ho'oponopono to completely leave that illness behind. Like, I still had so many crutches, not just the medication, in the belief that there was no choice. The mother, when she is more in line with your persona, this body that moves about, and the willingness to say, okay, this doesn't feel comfortable. It's not necessary. It might not necessarily be because I shouldn't trust this. Maybe it's unfamiliar to me. And that's what I was going through. So with the Ho'oponopono, I started to feel something different, but I also felt resistance, because it was working. It was clearing things. And that felt foreign to me at the time. So the son, the new I, the child within, it is the will that's going to start the engine and take you to places that are new. It's the upgraded fuel in your vehicle. So when you go to the gas station, you got all these, three choices. Now you're going to be riding on premium gas. When you enter a lot of these prayers, because these are prayer codes, and I'm going to explain that deeper when I talk about our dream state and our astral projection. They are codes that they become embedded into your software. They are very, very powerful to your advantage, to help you, to guide you, and most of all, for your protection. So you just activated the coordinates to your soul's purpose when you really get deeper into this. It's not just something, in my opinion, for me, it wasn't just something when I started, I was thinking, all right, I just want to solve my problems and move on. But as I started to uncover all those different connections, the problems, and my desires were not truly my soul's desires. They were just persona's desires, the false being, the ego, the shadow, and they really didn't belong to me. So this is where, when we talk about right relationship, we need to be really careful in that once we start seeing our own distortions and truly reflect on them. Because if you're just cleaning just to clean, which is why I don't recommend doing 4 phrases at all. Unless you have been doing the 12 steps, working with the true teaching, then maybe adopt that mantra to your practice. But I don't recommend it because it can further deepen programs that aren't really yours. So, because you see, most of us are driving through life with a GPS that's full of other people's, other concepts, businesses, commercials, other destinations that aren't even ours. Our parents, our teachers, our friends, society, they've all helped install programs in our motherboard, the part of our psyche where the memory lives and stays encoded. And it's in this hidden space that those memories create deeper patterns, addictions, pain, false desires, and those accumulate. That's how I got sick, because I had reached that fever pitch. Okay, there was no more room for any additional space. The patterns and those false belief systems and programs, they became part of my psyche, and they live there for a long time. So they become stronger. And it's in this hidden space that if you don't have the key to access it, this is why people have a hard time leaving addiction. It truly, I think right now with everything that's happening, this harmony through chaos, there are other ways coming forward to begin to help us heal ourselves. Because when you start to understand all these different cultures of our different ancestors, healing is individualized. There is no one size fit all because it's not natural to our beingness to just do something everyone else is doing. And that's kind of how we've been living too. So that's why things may not have been working out for the way that you might have hoped in your life, and why, a problem led you to Ho'oponopono. I know that feeling because I have been living it, especially as a Gemini, because I often always feel I had felt so split, indecisive, decision-making, self-doubt, and I am a second-ray soul, and many healers and empaths are second-ray souls too. So if you go into the coursework, you'll be able to determine what ray you are. A ray is, when we talk about astrology in this teaching, a ray is not, it's specifically about your soul's purpose, your soul's essence, soul's true destination and your true calling, and where your soul really wants you to go. So that split feeling, like there was times where I would try to do something and it just never worked out. I just kept getting blocked. Well, that's because my soul was fighting for me to choose differently. And Gemini is also about choice. And we can be split, completely torn if we're not balanced. So it's like living a double life when you're not balanced in all of your bodies, in your spirit and the physicality. But one part of me wanted to follow the world's script and, what my parents had taught me, and I continued to silence it until I got sick. And being sick was a blessing in disguise for me. But the soul has its own travel plans for you. And that's really what I wanted to say today. But, the problem is my egoic desires and what I wanted and what was being fed in my environment, the programming, was taking me down a different road that had nothing to do with my destiny. But Ho'oponopono has helped me rebalance myself in not getting, pulled in different directions from different desires. Because the more that you know your true identity and the soul's desire, all those things start to seem very childish to you. And that's why Ho'oponopono is so powerful. It accesses the hidden files, the deep scripts running the show, and it gives you the code to unlock and delete them with gentle, loving kindness, and it expands the heart space. So I want to share with you a few exercises you can use to start shifting your thoughts more right brain. Sometimes that is what's the holdup with these patterns, is we have been taught that I need to see this to believe it. And I've slowly went away from giving you scientific concepts. The more that I went within myself my intuition came more naturally. The less that I sought the answers out there, they showed up for me in very scary ways at times. And I want to share with you some of those techniques, because when you start to uncover how powerful you are and how much love and kindness and the gifts you've been given, you will no longer need to rely on that. All right, so the first thing that I did personally was I took a vacation from watching television, listening to the radio, any kind of programming, but at the same time, reduce it as much as possible. So if I got into a car with someone who was already listening to the radio, I withheld my comments. I did not say, this is terrible. Well, I did at first, but after a while, I started to realize that I was trying to control what they were doing too. So focus on your own thoughts, but without trying to control someone else's. Shutting down what you could control. So for me, Netflix, all these different outlets, watching TV. Start little. If you have a hard time with this, start with just, a week, and then see if you can do 2 weeks, then a month. What I found was I went from watching all kinds of crazy stuff, scary stuff, all kinds of terrible things, to it had been a month. And so then when I went back to trying to look at a program, I became hyper aware of how detrimental it was to my psyche and, things that I fear, all these other things, because we're constantly being bombarded with commercials now and suggestive programming, whether it's, medical things or sexual things. All these things affect our programming, even when you don't think it does. It does. Now, I will tell you that that was one of the most powerful things that I did first, because it did start to help me feel and sense in my environment naturally. So like, for example, if someone would come into my house, I could feel what they were feeling. I was starting to get back some of these senses we already have. This is why Morrnah says, everywhere you go, you should protect yourself, cover yourself, because you really are being bombarded with thought forms all around you and other people's energetic systems. It can be possible for those things to get transferred to you. So you have to be careful, especially if you have children in your home. You don't want to have fear about it, but at the same time, you need to be more mindful that there is all kinds of energy around you. And fear is the number one emotion that a person, in my opinion, should work on, because as you start to traverse awake with your consciousness in the other realms, the fear is the first thing that will kick you out of being able to communicate, be educated by higher masters and other individuals in the other realms. You cannot have these false fears, like Morrnah has stated about imagery. Imagery is very powerful. If you're constantly looking at things of gory, bloody, suggestive, suspenseful, this will affect your ability to just be awake in the other realms of existence. Meditation. I know that it seems so simple, but to a lot of people, including myself, Gemini is one of out of all the zodiacs, has the most resistance to it. The third month was when I began to have altered states just from just sitting there, because we identify with our body so much that I personally needed to disidentify, because that was a big part of me not healing from an illness. emotionally obsessed with the reactions my skin was having and the fears of going outside. And so disidentifying with this body, because it is not truly you. And I feel like, Gurdjieff, he has a teaching about your bodies, because they're not really, it's kind of a false idea to even call them the bodies. Maybe why Morrnah stuck closely with the selves. The false selves at times. You are building upon what your soul has developed over many lifetimes. And because I became more awake in the astral and higher realms, I was able to confirm that. So when I created this channel, I create these things that I share based on my own experience. Being awake in that other state of existence is why I feel so strongly to do this, because my whole life before was based on proving, having to see things, someone telling me. But when I shifted into that other realm and was lovingly sent into classrooms, this was the curtain coming down for me, my family, because the first people that I discussed this with was my family, my sons. They would ask me questions like, well, how do you know that that's real, that those aren't, fake beings? And through Ho'oponopono, I have learned more deeply about this freedom because of Morrnah. Because in the realms beyond this physicality, there is true freedom. So some of these beings and masters and teachers in the classrooms, you are not going to be told to do anything. You're going to be given certain lessons, and it is up to you how you shape this information. In these other states of consciousness, there is a inner knowing. There's a feeling. You honestly can feel some of these, because there's dark things in these other realms too. But as you continue going into these other states of existence, you start to feel, you have an instant knowing of something. And some of it is a feeling, and then some of it is through them teaching you something, but they will never tell you directly to do something. It will be revealed to you or shown to you in different aspects. That's what the Amakuas do. They're guidance. They have given you guidance, teaching, and you will see some of your crappy stuff right away. You're going to see some of your thoughts, and that's where people get confused. They think there's entities that are coming towards it. It's truly mainly everything that you have created, that you have manifested, given out, put out. It is up to you to read the data, because the data is not going to be universal. The data that comes to you is only for you. So when you figure out how to approach the problem at hand, it could come many ways. It could come through a dream, it could come in your meditation, it could come by someone not talking to you. So unspoken words can be a clue. So just listening and honing in, because like Morrnah says, the nucleus of every problem, it starts with this one thing, whether it's someone didn't talk to me, I just met this person, I don't know them, and they're giving me stinky eye. Start with that nucleus. So right away, for me, a person who instantly has some adversity with me, with no logical explanation, automatic Ho'oponopono for that person.